Hey there, welcome back to Moto Talk with Steve and Kim. I'm Steve and that's Kim. Hope you are well. Hey, we had some technical issues last week. Actually, they weren't technical. They were user error on my part. So we later on, we're going to revisit a couple bikes and their owners as we get going with today's show. In our first segment tonight, I'd like to announce a few events and what's happening now and what's coming soon. Want to do a shout out to our unofficial sponsor, Performance Power Sports of Brownsburg. They sell chains and sprockets and all kinds of moto gear, so be sure to look them up for your moto needs. Hoy Vintage Cycles also is a drag specialties and Parts Unlimited dealer, so we can get parts through that as well. Let's see, the first thing we're going to announce today is the fact that the Boone County Swap Meet is back in action this year. That's actually coming up this Sunday. And if you don't know any history about this, and you can feel free to chime in, Kim, Rick Smits, who used to play for the Pacers, the center, he started this swap meet years ago, probably 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah, and it's been a really good one every time Rick had anything to do with it. Pretty heavily populated. It's changed in recent years, maybe a little less busy than it has been in the past. They changed the physical building for the first time last year to another building that's like across the parking lot from where it used to be, but it's still in the Boone County Fairgrounds area. It's easy to find.
And I think it started out mostly like vintage dirt, and it's kind of progressed over the years. And now there's a little mix of vintage dirt, vintage street.
Yeah, you can buy pretty much anything in there. I'm hopeful that this year it's bigger than it was last year, but even last year it was still fun, and people sold a lot of things. They had some interesting things to buy. It was good.
We haven't actually scheduled to have a booth up there, but I am going to talk to them tomorrow and get a booth up there for Hoy Vintage Cycles. And we'll take some parts up there and sell them. Kim's going to run up there and run it because I have some duties on Sunday that help me not get to it.
Yeah, I'll be there Sunday from open to close. So I'll be there from 9 to 2 at least. And I'll have parts, bikes, shirts, stuff like that.
Yep, maybe some stickers and some cards too.
Free advice.
All right. Okay, so let's move on. Also, I know I've got a few friends in the motorcycle community that have done this event. I've never done it, and that's the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. I know it's all about men's health, and they raise a lot of money, and it's like a worldwide deal. So this is not a small event that happens just in this location. It happens all over the U.S. and all over the world.
I think it's a charity 501c3. So when you pay money to be in it, they take that money and do something with it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So go show off your ride and get in your digs and do all that. That's May 23rd. And then some other news that we have here in our hometown of my hometown of Brownsburg is this new place, Ducati dealership, Ray Hall, Ducati, Indianapolis. They're on 499 South Point Circle Suite 104 in Brownsburg, down in the race community over there on Northfield Drive.
Yeah, it's right across
you can
from.
Tell us some more about that.
It's right across from John Force's compound. It's where Ray Hall Performance is. I've learned some things about this shop. They did not buy the dealership from Bill Carr in Zionsville. They actually have a startup Ducati dealership.
Full on startup.
Just like it was starting from scratch. I've talked to them over there. They're still ramping up with inventory and parts, but they were very helpful. They have a specific phone number. I don't have it in front of me, but if you call Ray Hall Performance, you can ask them for it and they'll connect you. So they are selling parts. They do have a maintenance department. They have some new bikes, as you can see here. And one of our longtime biker friends has purchased a Ducati Multistrada, although she was primarily a BMW person for a long time.
Talking about Lisa
Gilbreth. Yep. She'll be joining us in a couple weeks to talk about some things that she's experienced. She's another 100,000 mile a year rider.
Yeah, we've mentioned her on the show, and then just the other day, I was driving north, heading home after work, and I saw her riding one of her adventure bikes south, and then she ended up stopping at the shop and talking.
Yeah, she stopped, and we visited and made a commitment that she'll join us for part of the show right in the 1st of April. So we're looking forward to that.
All right. Well, how's everybody doing out there? I didn't bring the comments up. Hey, Ashley, Greg McKenzie. We were worried about the link not showing up.
Hey, John Hill's on.
Hey, all right. Hey, John.
Sorry to hear about Redline Power Sports. That's another piece of news we didn't share.
Ron Mahoy.
They're closing Redline Power Sports in Fort Wayne, which was a little bit of a shock.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. That's a toughie.
Yep.
Hey, all right. Well, we're going to move on. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I know on Facebook it's different than YouTube. YouTube, you got to subscribe and hit the bell and all that kind of stuff. I haven't even looked at how you do that on Facebook, but be sure to subscribe to the show. We're going to talk about all kinds of different topics. Brian Graney, hey, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, our original plan for today was to bring in some street survival stories, but because we had the hose up last week, we're going to kind of revisit some of that. It was interesting and important.
Exactly. Yeah, and so if there's an event that you would like us to mention in the future, don't hesitate to send a DM to me, Hoy Vintage Cycles, or even Kim Rabluski over here. Tell us what you have going on, whether it's a ride, benefit ride, all that, or just some kind of get together that you want to promote out there. Feel free to let us know. All right, so I want to continue on with a couple stories from last week that kind of got interrupted from my dumbness. We had Jenna on the show. She called in, Jenna West. And she was talking about her dad's or it was her grandpa's CB450. I'll let Kim continue on with that.
Yeah, it was a great story because Jenna is a pretty seasoned rider now, but she did not know, evidently, that her grandpa had a motorcycle until her mom gave her this picture. And it's her dad on a 68 CB450.
Her mom's dad.
Yes, that's her mom's dad. And that's her mom
Jenna's
right there
mom
on the front of the seat.
Yeah.
And he unfortunately passed before they had much time to share about motorcycling and some of those things, but certainly he would be very proud to know that Jenna was involved in the sport as deeply as she is. The other thing about this particular picture is Jenna is also an owner and has had several CB450s just like it. That's a blue one, but this is another one that I think she's got that one now. It gets dressed up for Christmas. It becomes part of a Christmas tree inside the house.
It's all lit up
every year. One of my favorite photographs, and we'll look for a way to bring that picture up at some point. I'll share it with Steve.
Yeah, and another thing I shared was her Instagram, Jen's Moto Adventures. She's got a lot of followers on there for just going out and doing her thing, not really doing a bunch of promotion. And then she's also one of the Revit women's team riders, adventure riders.
Yep.
And does a lot of events with them and promotes the Revit product. She's always wearing the Revit gear. She wore Revit gear before all that happened, and she's continuing to do that as she goes out to some events.
Yeah, she's promised to come back and do a story about how she got a KTM in a tree.
Yeah, we'll have to pull that picture out and show it. Next up is again one of our mechanics at Hoy Vintage Cycles, Mike Hubert. This is his dad's Mako way back in the day, all duded up, almost like he's going on a gentleman's ride.
Yeah, and this was a time shortly after World War II where Mr. Hubert and his wife lived in Paris, and they were there, I think, 6 years after the war, and they needed transportation. There weren't a lot of automobiles, so he took the stylish route and got this Mako. I think this particular bike is a 125, and again, pictures say a lot about a person, but he's wearing an ascot and a leather jacket, and tie-up lace shoes, and he's got his motorcycle halfway polished. So, and you can tell by looking at him, he's very happy in his work there.
Oh yeah, he's digging it.
So yeah, he had that bike for quite a while. It was obviously very important to Mike, this, not just the photograph, but the stories his dad told him about these events. And Mike had looked really hard for a Mako similar to this, and he had found one in Canada somebody had that was partially complete, and he found a way to get that motorcycle and restore it. So he's still in the process, but this is where it stands at this moment. This is at his house.
That's current condition, and it has spark and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure
We've
it'll run.
not yet started it
He
up.
did have some things cosmetically resolved, but that paint on the tank and the fenders and even the rims is factory. He's done some new clear coat, but he's done a really remarkable job of bringing this bike back. And it's essentially the same thing other than being a little bit bigger displacement. I think this one's a 175, but same bike, same Mako from back in the 40s. Cool bike.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned last week that may or may not have been on the audio is some of that bike was really roached. If you looked at the stator, it looked like it was drug up out of a river, and he brought it all the way back. Did a really nice job on it.
Yep, he did some of that work at Hoy Vintage Cycle where he works on other people's bikes. But yeah, the results look like that when Mike finishes a bike, regardless of the bike.
One thing Kim and I've been talking about is we want to figure out, and you guys can tell us what you want to talk about, and we want you to send us some stories about either your street rides or road racing or dirt bike adventures. I think Keith saw me mention that, and he sent a couple pictures. This is his son Spencer Carlson hitting a table there, and I think this is in Colorado at. I don't know if this is at Dacona, Colorado, at the IMI track that I went out and rode with Keith on. And then here's another picture. This is big fat me on one of Keith's betas. This was a beta 300 two-stroke. And then there's Keith Carlson there in the back cutting in on the inside trying to get around me. And I think he ends up doing that, of course. He usually does. And that's a beta 430 four-stroke. And I didn't grow up riding two strokes. I mostly rode my friends' dirt bikes. A couple of them were two strokes, but I've mostly been a four-stroke fan, and I just like the easy roll-on power. I don't like the crazy power band, and I'm just not used to it. I mean, once you get used to it, it's probably a different thing. But that Beta 300, I took to it really quick. It's light. It's got power, but it's not that crazy power that's going to send you off into the trees or whatever. But we had a great time at that IMI track. It was well groomed, and just absolutely had a fun time on that.
Yeah, Keith's out there right now. He's got family out there. His son Brendan is physically in Colorado, works there, lives there.
Yep,
and
right
Keith
there in
goes
Denver.
about once a month, I think, to visit.
At least,
and it's a great thing for him to be able to do that. We'd all like to see our kids.
I want to start doing that too.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't think I can make once a month yet.
He goes there so often that he keeps those betas there in Colorado, so he can ride them while he's out there. That's a great idea.
He has since sold the two-stroke, and he's picked up I think another 430, a newer one. So he's got two 430s out there, betas. They're pretty cool. So let's see, Bobby Steele. Hey, what's up? Open ride at is that Linton MX this Sunday? Okay. Also, Lincoln Trail Motorsports having practice on Saturday. Okay. So kind of interesting. I get these confused all the time. You got Lincoln Trail Motorsports, which I think is Casey, Illinois. And then you also have LMX up in, what is that? Maderaeville, Leisure Time.
Yeah.
Leisure Time. So they have the same letter calls. Anyway, one other one that I wanted to mention, someone sent in a picture, and you actually replied to this. Mr. Lord and his wife, he bought this bike brand new April of 77. It's a CB750 from McKinney Honda in Ruston, Louisiana. About the same time he met this lovely young lady where they were married also in 77. And just to show that the true love lasts for both, there is his lovely wife and
same bike
motorcycle, the same bike. So neat to see that. So send us in stories like that. It doesn't have to be vintage motorcycles. We want to talk about everything, from the new bikes to the old. So definitely send us some of your stories when it comes to that.
One of the things that we'd really like to hear from people is specifics about what they might have experienced in their time riding on the street, things that they might consider a survival story. We're hopeful to
Thanks, Marcia.
see what people come in and tell us about, because we'd rather talk about your experiences than, bring you all of ours. Again, every time you go dirt riding, it's so much fun. I think it's the most fun you can have on a motorcycle. And everybody's got a story about whether they forgot their lunch, fell into a creek, went into a water hole,
Forgot their boots,
wound up in a tree. Yeah. there's always stories because it's, everybody's out to have a good time when you're doing that. And if you have one of those, you'll probably also have stories about where you might have been in some sort of an off-road event, whether it's a GNCC type event, like the Hooptie.
The Hooptie, yeah,
and
the Hooptie
everybody's
class.
got stories about the
Oh,
Hooptie.
that's yeah.
And there's lots to talk about with that. And even if it's not organized and you go out with a bunch of people, you're gonna have a great time.
Let me give a shout out to TJ there. Hey T, how you doing? Sorry for your loss. T lost his mother this last week, and just wanted to say something about that. Hey buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, so along the lines of the Hooptie as an example, if you've ever been to Crawfordsville, you see how aggressive that is, and it's not for everybody. But the Hooptie, I think, was really cool because it brought in people that wouldn't normally even try something like that,
Right?
And they were out doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And the weather was awful, and the fun was had though, even though it was difficult and tiring.
The buildup and the fun was so big that even Carlos Diaz thought he might want to try his hand at it, but
he hasn't showed up again after
he hasn't been back since.
Yeah, he talked a little bit of smack about learning how to ride a bike because he didn't know how to ride a bike.
Yeah, so if you're out there, Carlos,
bring it around. We'll teach you how to
back.
do it, and we'll make sure you don't fall down in the parking lot. But we'd also like to hear some other things from you, and of course we can take these along the way as we go. But we'd like to find out what people think is the best accessory they ever had. Not necessarily the bike, but what accessories did you have?
For the bike or on the bike or
for the bike, on the bike, wear, gear, dirt, street, race, doesn't make any difference because it's cathartic for somebody to get something they never had before.
Yeah.
I remember for me, it was off-road boots, real live off-road boots where I wasn't wearing like lace-up combat boots when I was a teenager. And then I got my first pair of like full bore race boots.
After 9 years, I finally picked up a new pair of Alpine Stars.
It's that kind of stuff. And, right now, one of my biggest interests is in being able to ride earlier in the season when it's a little bit cooler than normal. And I recently bought a set of North Face gloves that are real thin, but they have insulate in them. And they're terrific because as thin as they are, they allow no wind through to your fingers.
They're not battery operated, right?
They're not battery. No, they're not heated.
No warmers.
No, but you don't need it because they're windproof and they work really well. That kind of thing is really helpful. So if you have something like that, and I'm sure you do, tell us what it is. Send us a DM, put it on Facebook, send it to us at the bike website, whatever.
I'll give it a quick plug on something that I bought that was kind of a neat accessory. Everybody's looking for something to put their phone on the bike with, right? Some type of a bracket, and some of them are big and bulky and ugly. And when we were, when we were at the Moto Expo, the Motorcycle Expo, I think it was 2 years ago.
At the fairgrounds.
One of the guys next to us, actually on the corner across from us, was called Tackform. And I think it's like the worst name you could come up with. For some reason they like the name, but they made these high-end billet formed cell phone holders that are a quick, you quickly put it on and quickly take it off. And I actually bought 2 or 3 of them for my bikes, and they work really well. Free plug for them, but you can look them up. It's called Tackform. I think it's TACHFORM. And it's really high quality. It's not junk that's going to fall apart.
I don't personally carry a cell phone on the motorcycle unless it's in the glove box or something. But if you were going to put one on there and you wanted it where you could get to it, the last thing in the world you'd want is for your phone to wind up on the ground.
Right.
So you'd want a really high quality.
Yeah, this is a high quality one. Almost everything is made out of some type of a metal or a high quality piece of metal. And what else was I going to say about that? I can't remember, but we can move on.
Yeah. So I've got to give a shout out to my daughter, Erin. She's asking me about the hammer embedded in the fuel tank. The whole story about that is there were a number of people building choppers, and one of the guys that built a lot of custom choppers back in the day when there were a lot of TV shows about choppers was a guy named Billy Lane. And Billy Lane would always put a loop on the back of the gas tank to the right side of the bike, and there would be a ball peen hammer that came with the motorcycle when you bought it. And it was a nickel plated top and a nice maple handle. And the purpose for that was
Is that a get back stick?
Yes, it's to whang on the
Oh, my
car that goes
goodness.
by and
Nice.
whack it on. And
I thought so from reading that, I would have thought, well, maybe it was someone got mad and threw a hammer and it stuck in the tank.
That's a different thing
would
that
have been
happened
fun.
to me with somebody else, but we can talk about that on another show. But anyway, welcome, Aaron. While we're talking about Aaron, some of you may know that next week, Monday is International Women's Day.
Yep, that's
so in respect for that, we're going to have a show next week that includes a woman's perspective on motorcycling. So if you've got someone, significant other, friends, people that are bikers that would like to hear someone's perspective, Erin has offered to join us for that show and talk about her experiences, not just learning to ride, but also how a person sees it from their perspective. And she, as a rider in Africa, was a woman rider in Africa, which was really interesting to talk about. And I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about that. But also,
that will be interesting.
Yes. And she lives in Washington, D.C., which if you've ever driven there, that's a pretty scary place to be on four wheels, let alone two. So she'll share a lot of issues about that. And then specifically from a woman's perspective. So if you have someone like that in your family or your riding community, bring them. We'll look forward to that.
Yeah, and we've got a link we're going to send to Erin, and she's gonna show up live on video. So she doesn't know that yet.
She doesn't know that
now
yet,
she does.
but now she does. You're right.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
A couple other things that we wanted to share. If people bring us some information about what they thought their worst bike might have been, or what they thought their ugliest bike might have been, don't pick on somebody else's stuff, but bring your own stuff. Right.
Yeah, because some bikes that you would think are really ugly, someone else thinks they're really pretty, and that's what's nice about everybody has their own tastes.
Yeah, it's funny because you go to a bike show. I know we've done this for sure. You go to a bike show, you're walking side by side, you see a motorcycle, and the first thing you do is look at each other. It's like,
I really like that, and I'm like,
I don't think so. Yeah.
No way.
And that can be the good part or the bad part, or either way.
Yep.
And I had another experience.
That'll be a good show. Ugliest bike,
right?
Oh man.
Yeah. And again, the Hoy Vintage Cycle thing, it's been great for all of us, but
kind of like we have a face for radio.
We do have a face for radio, but
we're streaming,
whether you like it or not. But we had an experience this week where one of our customers brought in his fiance, and she happens to be the great granddaughter of George Bruff, the founder of Bruff Superior Motorcycles. You can't even make that up, but
I'll admit I didn't know who that was. So
right. And
that's how bad it is.
She has been there and done that, been a guest on Jay Leno's show, been to his garage, gotten a personal tour of what he's got, because he had called her grandfather to ask something specific about a Bruff Superior motorcycle that he owned and had some provenance. So, people wander in, you would never know who they were. But it was, and now she's
cool. With somebody that's kind of getting into the motorcycle scene.
Yeah, she's engaged to a guy that has some old bikes like Indians back in the 20s, and we're helping him with that. But interesting people walk in the door.
And he's doing a resto mod on a CB750.
Yes, he told me about that. He's got Adam Smith working on it a little bit. I heard.
Okay, good.
That's a good place to get work.
Yes.
So you're ready to talk about
tools?
We'll
have to have Adam on here too. Adam has a CNC. Should I even say this on live? Yeah. Adam has a CNC machine in his garage. It takes up almost 3/4 of his garage, or his old garage it did. And he's been playing around with it. He's an engineer, and he's coming out with some pretty cool stuff. So that would be a good place to start.
I don't know if you've got time to find the picture of the Hoy Vintage points cover, or one of the ones that Adam did with the clear.
Oh yeah, I'll try to look one up while
he's made some ignition covers out of clear Lexan that allow you to see the workings of whatever you've got in there. He's not solely CB750, but he's done some CB750 work. While Steve's looking that up, yeah, here he is. Oh, this is his dog.
I'll get there. They don't see this yet, so I've just got to. I'm going to pull a picture.
So if everybody can still see me, I'm going to fill in with.
They can.
With a couple things. One of the things we want to do every week is talk about essential things that you need if you have a new motorcycle, old motorcycle, vintage bike, modern bike, doesn't matter, from a tool perspective, or something that helps you be more effective with your motorcycle. And I brought a couple of things I wanted to share with everyone. I think most people are familiar with this tool. This is a very essential motorcycle tool, but maybe not for the reason you think.
Is that the same one you carry on your motorcycle?
It is not, but I may have to get this one polished and send it to Aaron. But the purpose for this is to be used in concert with this. And if you don't know what this is, it's an impact driver. You will save yourself a lot of time and trouble. If you have one of these, it's intended to be put into the screw on the side of the cases, and you whack this and it will
break it. You bought it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It'll take the screw out without stripping it, where you got to
make sure it's going the right direction too, because it'll tighten as well as loosen, right?
Yes. You simply just move this the direction you want to have it. Right. So these are these two together are really essential. That's for any motorcycle, no matter what it is you have, you're going to need something like that. Another one that's absolutely essential is this, and you may not have one that looks like this. This is a great big one, easy to read for my old eyes and for other people, and it's a good reach, so you don't have to get right down on something. You can put it on. But this is a tire pressure gauge. I like these tire pressure gauges, but the ones I really like look like this. And if you don't have one of these, you need one of these.
That's fancy.
And don't get the $2 one that's at the O'Reilly checkout counter. Get yourself a nice one. Even if it's a Chinese one, you can get a nice one for about $15.
When you showed that to me earlier, I thought that was a dial gauge.
Yeah, well, it is a dial gauge, but it's telling you how much pressure you have in your tires. This kind,
not top dead center.
No, we have those, but that's way down the road.
Way down the road here.
This one, you got to have one of these, because the most important thing you're going to encounter on your motorcycle is making sure you have the proper air in the tires. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have a miserable ride for a lot of reasons. Yeah, it's part of the pre-trip, and you've got to have those things. And then the last tool I wanted to share with you guys today is this one. If you don't have one of these, you should have one of these. If you don't know what it is, it's a cable lubrication device. It allows you to slip this end of it over the cable. The cable itself goes in like that in the side of it. You clamp it down. When you clamp it down, then you take this little hole right here and put your lubricant in it, and it squirts the lubricant down the cable. Nice. So rather than having to fight that or have cables that are balky or difficult, you can lubricate them real easily with this. Something you
without taking them off.
Without taking them off, right? You just need to loosen them out and put this in there. And again, these things aren't expensive. This one right here is probably as good a one as you're going to find, and they're about $10. So I'd say go get one of these.
That it?
That's all I got.
I'm gonna go get Killer so I can get him on camera there real quick.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I loved coming here when we first started doing this in this garage was Shopcat, and he's been so much fun for me. He's not friendly to virtually everybody, but he's been friendly to me. And we've become kind of bonded in the whole process of working here and his time around here. So this was like 5 years ago that he and I would be pals, and he's always willing to come and visit.
Come here.
And he's fully equipped. He lives outside. He eviscerates small animals and leaves them on the doorstep. He's a really well-equipped animal for his living outside process. He's had to do a little bit of an adjustment recently, though, because Steve has another kitten that lives inside, and he's had to get used to that.
Natalie had to have another cat, and he didn't like it. And it took almost 6-7 months before they even really would get close to each other, or she would bug him and chase him all over the place. But anyway, we'll get some more shots of Killer when he decides he wants to come around. Hey, thanks guys for joining in the show, and we're gonna take off, and send us some stories, send us some info like we asked, and
this show will always be better if we have your input than just listening to us.
We need to know stuff about you, not us.
Right.
We're boring.
Right.
All right, see you later.
Thanks.